Buenos días a todos. Yo soy Carl Dillard en el Rincón del Cocay con María Elena Valdivia y estamos otra vez enfrentando la gran pregunta. ¿Qué es lo que está sucediendo en Estados Unidos? ¿Qué debemos hacer para enfrentar esos retos y cuáles serían las mejores maneras de hacer esas cosas? So I just said we're in the Firefly corner. That's the name of our
Mhm.
podcast, and we ask the questions: What's going on in our country right now? What do we need to do about it? And how do we need to do those things? Y hoy tenemos un invitado muy interesante. Se llama Anthony DeRibas y él es una persona con amplia experiencia como persona de la clase obrera, pero está ahora con una postulación para un puesto político y en esta entrevista vamos a hablar sobre qué es lo que él piensa y qué propone. And so I just said that we have you, Anthony, and you are a very interesting person. You come from a working class background, but you have some solid proposals about what you would like to do, um, and what you want us to be thinking about.
Mhm.
Entonces, sin mayor preámbulo, yo creo que hay que darle el micrófono a Anthony de Ribas. So, Anthony, just to get things started, could you start by telling us who you are? I read a little bit on your website, and I have to say I was very intrigued. You put a lot of very moving language there, which is very moving and very exciting.
Uh-huh.
And also you start to talk about some concrete ideas that you want to have. So all of that sounds very good. So good, please, who are
Sure.
you, Anthony?
I am Anthony DeRibas. I am from, as our host said, working class. I've lived. I like to say that I've lived paycheck to paycheck my entire life.
Okay,
I have not.
okay. Can I just, hola, buenos días. Yo soy Anthony Rivas y sí, como dice nuestros anfitriones, yo soy de la clase obrera y sí, he vivido la experiencia de vivir de quincena a quincena.
Sure. To the most candidates and most incumbents that are in office now have not experienced that. They haven't lived that, and that's a core difference between what we're doing and where they are. Between candidates and even the incumbents, they've read about things on in policy reviews, and they've read about them in reports, but they have not lived it. They have never been homeless. They have never lived paycheck to paycheck. They have never been one car repair bill away from an eviction, and we have. We've experienced those things. And like so many other people within our population, I'm not a one off. There are hundreds of thousands, maybe even millions of people in our nation that live like that every day. For them, the country is not collapsing, it has collapsed already.
Últimamente dice, yo tengo la experiencia de la vida como una persona que vive con la quincena, con la paga de cada quincena, lo cual me diferencia de la mayoría de los otros candidatos. Los otros candidatos que no tienen esa experiencia, bueno, han leído, tienen como que una experiencia por lectura, pero yo he experimentado pues vivir en la calle y todas las cosas, los retos las dificultades de las finanzas. Ok, go
I
ahead.
am from. I got a little off there. I'm from Miami. I was born here in Florida. I am 58 years old. I am a widower, and I have my retail background, and I did also spend 14 years working as a civil servant with the United States Postal Service.
Ok,
I was also
yo sí vivo en Miami. Que dijo que soy viudo y,
Y ha
y
trabajado con el servicio
yeah,
postal
yeah, ok,
por 16 años.
ok. All right, go ahead, Anthony.
sure, and I have also not only have I been on the receiving end of that lower financial ladder, but I've also given back. Also, I have given time about a year as a volunteer, unpaid volunteer with the New Britain Police Department as a community service officer when we lived up there. I also have assisted at food pantries, and I just want to head off just for a minute with the food pantries. We see candidates and even incumbents when they go to food pantries, It's like they bring a camera crew with them, and that is completely not the what not that's not why you should be there. We don't these are things that we've done. We're not advertising them. We'll mention them here because we're telling about ourselves, but we're not doing it for show.
Yeah,
And we see a lot of that here, even locally.
ok. Bueno, entonces dice, o sea, además de vivir con lo que gano en mi trabajo, también he intentado devolver a la comunidad. Como voluntario, he trabajado en lo que son los food pantries, como que almacenes de comida a precio económico para para la gente con esas necesidades. Pero vemos eso también entre los políticos profesionales, que ellos también acuden a esos lugares, pero siempre llegan con su tripulación mediática, con las cámaras, y eso no es el motivo correcto para hacer ese tipo de cosas. Uno lo hace porque le nace del corazón como yo, y o sea, menciono las cosas aquí ahorita con ustedes para que me conozcan, pero ayudar a la comunidad debe nacer de intenciones más profundas. Ok, ok.
También dijo que sirvió a la comunidad como voluntario dentro del departamento de policía como un oficial
Awesome.
comunitario de seguridad.
Nice one. Okay, go ahead, Anthony.
So when people say, well, actually, people don't haven't even asked what we're doing. They just want to know what where we come from. But some of the things that we do that we don't advertise. I don't say, look at me, look, this is what I'm doing. But these things are quiet. They're between me and the person I'm helping. For instance, I always keep a $20 bill in the console of my car, and my current girlfriend is completely on board with that, and that's one of the reasons why I love her so much. Because we hand, and this kind of ties into some of our policy. When we see someone on the side of the street holding a sign, if we feel it, or if we're stopped at a stoplight, we'll hand them the $20 bill. Once that bill leaves us, it's up to them, their choice. We've done our part of trying to assist them. We
Ujú.
take that and we put it out to our policy of healthcare or housing or food, like our host was saying earlier. Once, if the when people say, "Well, what if they're abusing it?" That is not our concern. If they're abusing the like we were saying in Minnesota with the fraud for housing, healthcare, or whatever it is, we should strive to give that opportunity if we have the resources. Again, and we touched a little bit about this before we started recording. If we have the resources, which we do, we have $4.2 trillion. That's our budget. $4.2 trillion in revenue coming in to the United States on average this year and last year. We should be doing those things.
Tres rasgos dice. Esa ayuda que damos a la gente no es para publicar por todos los medios, es más bien algo íntimo entre uno que da y la persona que recibe, es un asunto entre todos. Y y dice, normalmente cuando estamos dando, por ejemplo, yo en la guantera de mi carro llevo un billete de $20 y pues mi novia está actual está muy de acuerdo con eso y es una de las razones por las cuales la quiero tanto. Pero cuando damos esos dineros, nosotros no cuestionamos, no tenemos como que la contabilidad de qué es lo que están haciendo con ese dinero, si están malgastándolo o no, simplemente se lo damos. Y eso pues abre la potencialidad de pensar a escalas más grandes. O sea, la sociedad entera tiene como que, no recuerdo la cifra, pero unos trillones de dólares. Y, em, y-
Disponibles
sí.
como recursos para ayudar. On that regards of housing, Anthony, it is well known, I believe it is well known, that Sarasota and Manatee are struggling for the cost of living. I have noticed that for the last 5 years, that a lot of people have been displaced in that sense because they cannot afford to live there anymore. So it has been a struggle that, in my opinion, at least I haven't seen any, like the Florida uh, legislators actually worked on. Sometimes I feel like they pretend. Are you aware of that?
I am.
Pregunté al señor DeRibas si él ha notado que en los últimos 5 años el costo de la vivienda ha sido insostenible, si él sabe de eso y que creo que no he visto de parte del Congreso de legisladores en Florida que han hecho algo al respecto. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine. That's fine. Yes. So yeah, yes. We've had the opportunity to live all across the country with my former employer. So I've got to experience. I see California was one of the recent times, and that was about 8 years ago. And things were expensive out there. When I came back to Florida and in Alabama, Wisconsin, Connecticut, wherever we have lived, things are expensive all over. They are. It's not just localized, like you said, to Sarasota. It's everywhere now. It's like a cancer that's infected the whole country. We see that now too. Part of there's a few issues why that's happening. First of all, livable wages. People cannot afford 19, 20, $25 an hour. That's just unsustainable, and it's exploitive to the
Ok,
workers.
ya está. Entonces dice que con mi trabajo he tenido oportunidad de vivir en varias partes de Estados Unidos. Más recientemente, que son hace 8 años que vivía en California, pero he vivido en Alabama y en otras partes. Y vemos esa tendencia en todas partes del país. Es como un cáncer. Las propiedades y las viviendas están en aumento en sus costos. Ok, go ahead.
Sure. Yeah. And so uh, we would like to see, because we like the small businesses will generally would have, I can agree that they would have some kind of issue affording to pay people a livable wage. So what I would like to see is taking the subsidies that we give to Walmart, Tyson, Borden, these huge big companies, and bringing them, retracting them away from these major companies that are showing a profit. They are making money, and giving them to the small businesses to help them offset some of that cost. Walmart should absolutely not be taking any kind of subsidy and then billing the state again, where the state or the government has to assist these people that are working full time. By the way, and a lot of homeless people also work full time, but for the Walmart, back to the Walmart, they're working full time and they need assistance because
Ok,
Walmart refuses to
ok.
pay.
All right, very good. Entonces, o sea, ve que están las presiones por todos lados, sobre todo en la gente pequeña incluyendo la gente de pequeñas empresas. Y esos precios los están, el aumento de precios están poniendo muchos aprietos a estos negocios, lo cual es injusto. Y él dice, deberíamos de cambiar el sistema de subsidios y quitar los subsidios a las grandes empresas, por ejemplo, de Walmart, y canalizar esos subsidios al apoyo de las pequeñas empresas. Y sigue comentando que Walmart goza de la sociedad en muchas maneras. Hay gente hasta que queda indigente por el aumento de los precios, pero sigue prestando todos sus servicios de trabajo a Walmart. Entonces Walmart goza del trabajo de esa gente, pero encima de eso recibe subsidios y vuelve a cobrar a la población el dinero para que se vuelvan todavía más ricos. Ok,
So
go
it's
on ahead.
not to trash Walmart, but they're the common example right now. It's like they're double dipping. They're taking one income, and then the state is offsetting what they're paying for their workers. This leads back to what we were saying earlier about housing. People cannot afford a house. We're seeing multiple families. When I worked at the post office delivering in Hartford, you would see these three-family homes, and there would be like six mailboxes or three mailboxes on a three-family home, and there'd be like six different names on each mailbox where we see these. And this was 10 years ago. It's gotten worse since then, and it's everywhere now. So we need to bring people up. People say that people like to throw out the argument to counter that, say, oh, well, corporations or whatever will just raise prices. And our answer to that is, well, we could do this all day. You raise prices, we'll raise the rent. You raise. Eventually, they're going to price themselves right out of business. That's
Yeah.
there was one thing is clear, crystal clear should be to everyone here, is that corporations and government are absolutely crystal clear. They will not budge at all on a livable wage. So it has to be legislated. It has to be at this point.
El Congreso pues tiene que tomar acción en esto porque tiene que dar tienen que aumentar el salario o tener un salario con el cual se pueda vivir.
Yo siento que hay muchas preguntas que hay que hacerle para
Ujú.
lucidir. Algo que también dice es que Walmart goza dos veces del apoyo de los gobiernos. Por un
Sí.
lado, tiene el permiso de pagar muy poquito a sus trabajadores y por otro lado, te pone en manos del Estado de resolver todos esos problemas, porque el Estado subsidia lo que Walmart no le paga a la gente, el Estado tiene que subsidiar con los food stamps y otros apoyos de ese tipo que no es justo. Well, I think you're getting into very interesting topics.
I was circling back to the housing issue earlier. People cannot afford to have a house. Another thing that compounds that is things that our parents never had to go through is the credit companies, the credit reporting companies, TransUnion, and they assign you a credit score. And my parents, never had to apply for an apartment. If you had your first month and your last month, you went in, and the decision was made by having an interview like this. Is this a good candidate for? Now these corporations like Zillow are buying these 200 unit apartments, and they don't care about if you're a good person. They don't care if you have, you don't have perfect credit. You're not, you're no, you're out on the street. Your choices are either under a bridge or in a motel, and that's where we were personally. When I was working at the post office, I mean, it's happened. This is not something I've read about. This is something I've experienced myself. So income was not the issue at all. We have laws on the books. There are laws on the books where it is illegal to deny someone housing solely on their credit rating, but it has happened to us twice. Like I said, once when I was working at the post office. Back then, I was making. I wasn't bringing home, but our salary was about $60,000, and the rent was $545 a month. And I was denied apartment, so we were living in a motel while I was working full time at the post office. The second time was that was in Connecticut. The second time was in Florida, here in Florida, in Pensacola. When I left the post office, I was working full time at CVS, and I had my 401k, and I was denied an apartment again. That was $950 a month. This was more recent. And I said, because I had my 401k, I said, I offered them in lieu of my credit. I said, how about if I pay up 6 months in advance? Will that make you feel better? And they still denied me. No. I'm currently priced out of the apartment style. I will never be able to afford an apartment based on my salary currently, ever.
Entonces, bueno, describe otro aspecto de este desastre de nuestra economía, en donde tenemos que lidiar con la dinámica de ese puntaje crediticio que el país mantiene sobre cada uno, lo cual es requisito tener un puntaje alto de calidad crediticia para que uno incluso tenga derecho de rentar rentar una casa o rentar un departamento. Las grandes empresas privadas, por ejemplo, Zillow, es dueña de muchas propiedades y para que uno tenga derecho de rentar ahí, uno necesita no nada más tener un buen empleo con un decente ingreso, sino que su historial tiene que ser perfecto. Antes, en la generación de mis padres, las cosas no eran así. El trato entre el casero y inquilino era así como estamos ahorita en una entrevista, conociéndonos y si el casero veía que uno era buena gente, pues confiaba en eso y le daban el departamento. Pero ya no, ya las empresas actualmente no les importa si uno es buena gente o no, solo quieren el puntaje del historial crediticio.
Lo que él dijo es que no es algo que le han contado que ha leído, sino lo ha vivido, que
Ah,
es diferente.
así.
Él ha vivido eso, que tienes con qué pagar tu renta, pero por el crédito que hay, no se le da acceso a la vivienda. And that's where I stand for the housing to be a human right. You
Mhm.
shouldn't be denying it. Y
Right.
ahí es donde pongo mi punto que tener acceso a la vivienda es un derecho humano, no se te debería negar.
And it used to be like that. These credit reporting agencies are something new since I want to say the mid to late 80s, I think. They never existed before. And so we have a bill that we want to pass that fines mostly the corporations that own these apartments if they continue to be predatory like this, denying people housing. And this is just exacerbating the homelessness. Is something more, another barrier to people that are on the streets or living in motels or living in their cars or living under bridges, and that shouldn't be in our nation. I mean, we should have evolved so much further than where we are as a nation in at this point in 2026. And I don't I'm saddened because I see where most of the nation is living paycheck to paycheck, struggling, and we see that's a lot of reasons, a lot of times why people are not involved in politics. They are too busy. I'm very busy. I mean, just surviving. The nation, is not the nation has collapsed. If I didn't have an RV, I would be on the street. And I was able to fortunately have enough money in my 401k to purchase it when I left the post office. That's when I sold that one. And I moved out to California. And when I was working full time in California, I was living in a tent out on a campground because I couldn't afford an apartment. These are things that I've experienced. I've seen with my eyeballs. I know how they're broken, and I want to try to fix them. And I don't see that from 535 members because homelessness is not a new issue. That issue is as old as all of us talking here, everyone in the audience. That's not something new where we just discovered. Oh, hey, you know what? We have people that are homeless. No, that is, and it's refusal to be addressed and in any kind of meaningful way by our representatives in Congress. And I don't even
Ok.
like to use the message. Representatives, they're lobby members, is what they are.
Ok. Bueno, entonces está como que haciendo hincapié para él la importancia de constreñir con leyes el derecho y la libertad de estas empresas de bienes y raíces, por ejemplo, Zillow, de tomar en cuenta el puntaje crediticio. Él dice, ya la ley ya dice que no puede uno negar la vivienda de una persona solamente con base en ese puntaje. Sin embargo, en la vida real, pues las empresas te denegan la vivienda con base en eso. Entonces, por eso él quiere hacer leyes más, más fuertes para evitar como que la libertad y permiso que tengan ahí. Y actualmente los diputados que tenemos no tienen esa voluntad y no van a hacer nada concreto para mejorar esa situación.
Doing back to the housing issue was those two issues have to be addressed at the same time with the credit card reporting agencies and livable wages to give people. I mean, they're building behind me. If I look out that window, you can see is a 236 unit apartment building. I went on the website. They don't even say how much they're going to be, but I can imagine they're over $2,000 for a one bedroom apartment. And that's 2,000 up front, 2,000 for your last month, and 2,000 for your security. I personally know one person right now that would have that money extra disposable laying, that would be able to move into that. And that's before you turn the lights on, before you buy food, before you make a car insurance payment, before you make a car payment. That's your $6,000. And like I said, one person that I know that would have that money.
Ok. Entonces, o sea, dice, necesitamos analizar y reformar las actividades de las tarjetas de crédito y cómo funcionan, y también necesitamos poner mucho énfasis en el tema del salario vivible. O sea, el salario tiene que estar como que a cierto nivel para que solventemos los gastos a la hora de estar trabajando. Entonces menciona, hay un nuevo complejo de viviendas que están construyendo atrás, dice. Y él solamente, entre todos sus conocidos, conoce a una sola persona que podría potencialmente rebasar el umbral de requisitos para vivir ahí, porque además de todo necesitan como que creo que poner un adelanto de varios meses, es un total de $6,000 y él dice, nadie que él conoce tiene $6,000 que puedan ya disponer para el derecho de tan solo abrir la puerta y comenzar a vivir ahí.
They're saying that the cost of living and the housing, the price of housing, it's because there's so much demand that because there's so many people that wants to live in Florida, that's why the housing is so expensive. How can we um,
See,
respond to that?
I think the response to that is that we have enough buildings, enough inventory on hand to house them. If the immigrants, as you said, if the immigrants are paying these high prices, they've made it. They're at a level where they're not living paycheck to paycheck. If I could swing $6,000, if I had that sitting in my back pocket to go rent an apartment, sure, why not? But that's not the majority of America. The majority of America is living paycheck to paycheck. So that kind of falls short. You know, if people are paying these housing prices, who? Who are they? People that have made it, people that are okay. They're middle class, what's left of it. Those are the people that are. I don't see that as driving up prices, though. Like I said, 2000, there comes a point where the value to a one bedroom apartment, for instance, where does it stop? Is it going to stop at $2,000? Would a one bedroom be worth $10,000 a month? Would a there comes a point where we say, hey, that you're that's price gouging. That's excessive. That's predatory. That's you're taking advantage of people that need housing. Housing, like you said, it should be a basic right. It should be a right. People need a roof over their head. Just because, like I said, if you made poor choices in the past, our credit, my personal credit file. This is from 10 years ago. I'm not going to write to the 5 or however many credit files to dispute something that's going to take, again, busy. That's going to take me personal time to do that. It's on there. It is what it is. It's. I'm okay with that. I'm kind of, where I rationalize my girlfriend says, when you retire, and I'm thinking, I'm not going to be able to retire. I can. There's no way in hell that I could ever live on less money than I'm making now. I will have to work forever because I can't live on less. My retirement's not going to equal my paycheck. It's going to be less than what I'm making now. So retirement is just a dream for some people. Maybe that's is that the American dream that
It
never
could be,
comes
but
to fruition? But like you said, the housing issue has to be addressed. That apartment building down the street, who is that for? It's not for me.
no,
It's not for you. It's not.
no.
And why are they building it there? That's 236 units. You know, it just seems a little. And then we see it here also with the port that they want to build over here in Manatee by the Skyway Bridge at the port of Manatee. I just only because this is a recent issue and I'm bringing it up. It's a foreign company, and it doesn't do anything for the working class people that are here in this district. They want to come in. They want to. It's going to be damage to the environment as well. They want to bring cruise ships underneath here over in the port. Plus, it's not deep enough. And it does nothing for the residents here. It's all corporate, like you said, corporate, like the money. As you circling back to the money, like you said earlier, money in politics and lobbyists. If we remove money out of politics, a lot of these issues start to correct themselves. There are a few candidates out here that are not waiting until we win seats. We're going to do that now. By an example, we're refusing to take any kind of lobby money. We are bringing to light the bill HR 415, which was brought by a Democrat sitting congressman last year, that makes it illegal for candidates and for incumbents to raise money while they're in office. They're calling donors. And it's got zero co-sponsors. That's a huge red flag. Look, this is a problem. I want to make it illegal, and nobody is touching it but that one congressman in Pennsylvania. HR 415 by Brendan Boyle, National District 2 in Pennsylvania, I think.
Mhm.
So I have a question for you, Anthony, that I wonder if it can kind of like to help you talk a little bit about some of like your deeper way of you of that you're thinking. The way that you're answering this very interesting point that Marilena brings up, which is like how do you respond to people who say, uh, why are our housings, why is our housing going up? Well, by essentially, it sounds like the answer that we're hearing is like in terms of neoclassical economics of supply and demand. Okay, so we have a lot of undocumented immigrants, then a huge amount of them, which increases lots of demand. And so if the supply stays the same, the price goes way up. And so they say, there you go. It's all economic science, easy to understand. And so we see that what we need to do is get rid of the immigrants. It all makes so much sense. But you are saying that's not true. But it sounds like what you are s- saying is that like that what part of that story is not true?
Well, I
Yeah.
can say I'm experiencing what I see with my own eyes here
Yeah.
locally. That they are building 236 units down there that are brand new. Those aren't for immigrants.
Yeah.
So I don't know who's going to end up middle to upper class white people. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, Immigrants don't have a credit file, a credit number, so that they're not going to be able to go into those apartments. So who are those apartments for? The immigrants are
Yeah.
not. They're not all homeless. They're living somewhere in the state of Florida and in all 50 states. They're not all homeless.
But they're not living in those apartments, those expensive apartments that you're
No,
saying.
they're
They're living
probably
in
living
apartments
together
that
with family. Like when I was working at the post office in the 3 family homes where you had 6 names on each mailbox. You could do that with a private landlord, but not over here, not with a corporation, because they want to know, one person per bedroom, So again, that's not for them. Those expensive apartments are not for the immigrants. The immigrants are living somewhere, but they're not living there, and they're
yeah.
not homeless. So that kind of contradicts what we're saying. That's driving up the price of what? The expensive apartments? That's not an immigrant issue. That's a
Uh,
upper middle class issue because that's not for the immigrants. They're not living there. It's not just that apartment. Down that whole street, Moccasin Wallow, they're building homes that start in the $300,000 range, and another apartment building. That one's 2 story. This one down this street um, is another apartment building that they're building, 3 stories, probably around the same, around 236. Again, those aren't these apartments aren't for immigrants.
yeah.
The immigrants are not going to be able to get into them because they don't have a credit number, which corporations, and these are corporate owned apartments, require just to be approved. Um, so I believe the inventory, we have excess inventory, and these corporations are, they're just out of control with pricing these apartments. I don't know if that answers your question or what. If
Well,
I got
it was a good beginning. Bueno, estábamos como que ahondando un poco con Anthony de su opinión sobre por qué los precios van en aumento tanto y qué sentido tiene la respuesta que muchos políticos en Florida están dando, que atribuyen al exceso, digamos, entre comillas, el exceso de migrantes indocumentados que por cuestiones de fuerzas de mercado crea mucha demanda y con poca oferta de casas, el precio va en aumento. Y él dice que los precios van, yo creo que está diciendo que los precios exceden las expectativas ahí. O sea, los migrantes no están ocupando estos departamentos tan, tan costosos. Entonces, surge la pregunta, a quién están vendiendo? Y no es para nosotros que están ofreciendo eso. Como que el mercado de la vivienda existe para otros, no para la mayoría de nosotros. Y entonces yo tengo una pregunta, le voy a hacer una pregunta que es concretamente qué es lo que él cree que deberíamos de hacer para bajar estos precios de las viviendas. Yo oigo ciertas medidas que él menciona, como que quitar la dinámica del puntaje crediticio y además como que tratar de aumentar los salarios de la gente. Pero le voy a preguntar qué opina él de otras estrategias. Por ejemplo, uno que yo en lo particular me interesa mucho, por ejemplo, en Austria, en Viena. O sea, tienen un proyecto enorme de viviendas que no son para el lucro privado, sino es vivienda pública. Y no sé, le voy a preguntar qué opina de eso. And so, okay, Anthony. So I'm wondering what is what's your take on this, on how we're going to get prices down? I've heard you mentioning, controlling the activity, that this predatory activity of counting on people's credit scores to determine this. I don't know if I don't know if that has a direct relationship to the increase in the prices of the rents, or how would you
No,
do
I
you,
think that that was say I was saying with the credit scores that just pushes people more out to the street, not so much as a pricing, um,
okay.
because if you didn't have a credit score and you just needed to apply to get an apartment and you had the first, second, or deposit, you would be in. There would be no credit score company making that decision for you. Um,
But you'd still be paying through
you
the
would still be
nose
paying,
to
yes, yes, you would still be. So um, that's a very good question. How do we get the price points?
what do you think
Well, I
about
think
this?
that was the wage
Oh,
where
go
the
ahead.
wage came in, with where paying people a livable wage so they could afford these things, afford housing for one. And I think at some point, with our technology continuing to advance and replacing people, at some point we're going to have a conversation. We probably should be having it now with some kind of a universal income that
Okay.
people get, because
Now, can I well, I don't know. What do you think about this? You already made the very interesting point of the double dipping.
yeah,
And I just wonder whether or not you you see more double dipping. If we have a universal basic income, and then 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 as you say, like as it seems like you suggested, the private housing companies would notice this and rub their greedy fingers together and say, ah, well, we can raise the rents more. And so the government subsidy would basically just be handed
yeah.
over to the landlords. And you said, well, we could just do that on ad infinitum. I sort of suspect that you don't actually believe that. So I wonder,
No,
like,
I don't believe that was going to happen at all. I
ah,
use that as a for example. I heard that from an example. Actually, I think it was a comedian that was saying that, saying it. He's like, "Well, we could do this all day. No, eventually someone's going to give, and it's not going to be us. It's not going to be the people. It's going to be the
yeah.
corporation. Those are your two choices. We can legislate it and make it, or you're going to do it what you should be doing, the right thing to do.
Well, what thoughts do you have? And I feel like this is a very interesting opportunity for me because you are actually um, a politician, so to speak. You are running for office, or you are trying to actually make a change. So I wonder, what do you think about this dynamic? I don't know if you've heard about, for example, Vienna in Austria. They have a huge tradition, like for more than 100 years, of just the majority of Viennese people live in essentially public housing, in which there is no landlord, trying to collect rent. I mean, they pay very little rent, but that goes to the upkeep of the property and maybe some municipal taxes. And so you can live in this fantastic, historic, wonderful, posh city, and you can be poor incredibly, and you can do it. So so that would, like, in some ways, that would kind of like undercut this process that you describe of the double dipping. When people make more money in Vienna, there is nobody rubbing, at least in the housing area, there's nobody saying, I'll take that from you very much. Do you like that idea? And if you like it, how are we going to make that reality in Florida?
we should be able to look at other nations, and this is the part where our government and corporations operating inside on our soil. Um, First of all, the corporations, if we tax them like what we're proposing also with other candidates, is a Roosevelt 2.0 to finish off what he wanted to do with taxing corporations. A lot of people say they'll leave. Where? To Vienna? They're over here because we are friendly to them. Where are they going
Yeah.
to go? Mars, Moon? Every nation is hostile to them but the United States of America. That's why they're here. They're not going to go anywhere. They're going to have to stay here or dissolve. And I don't see them dissolving. Like you said, with the infinitive, we can do this all day. They're not going to dissolve. Their core belief is self-preservation. The corporations. Um, we should be, anyways, circling back. Yes, we should be looking at other nations, what they're doing, the examples, and how we can have that here in America for other people. Like you said, if you can be poor and still live in a nice area. There's homeless people everywhere that I've lived: California, Wisconsin, Connecticut, Alabama, Florida. Poor people. I've never not seen a poor person or someone standing on the side of the road with a sign. That is everywhere. Recently, now, today, we have people like that. Up at Publix, there's people on the bench. At Walmart, there's people on. In 2026, when we are taking in $4.2 trillion of revenue every month, our Roosevelt 2.0 would bump that up to almost $7.5 trillion every year. With that, you can do universal wealth. Universal health care, we're already paying $1.9 trillion to cover uninsured people, to cover
Is
everyone else.
Roosevelt
For
is Roosevelt 2.0 a thing, or is that something that you're
That's
imagining?
our friend and ally, Winston Jordan, has it all detailed and mapped out. I'd have to go look
Okay.
at the policies, by then, but I know that he brought, like corporations now, I think are taxed at a 37% rate. Back then, they were charged up to 90% in taxation, and that money was supposed to go back to infrastructure, roads, bridges, social services, for anyone that needed it.
Yeah.
It was cut short, uh, but we want that back. Uh, it, Even if it's not permanent, at least on a temporary measure. Um, and policy is like waves. Nothing has to be permanent. You can always scale back, scale to the need at the time. So
So is Roosevelt 2.0 kind of like your personal or your professional think tank that informs a lot of what your concrete proposals will be?
we use that based on where we want to go with our policy. Um,
Yeah. Okay.
and then we look at the current revenue that the United States is taking in right now. Um, we it's estimated, and then we go back and look at the government information as well. For about $4 trillion every year, we could have universal health care. Well, if we're spending 2 trillion, and we're taking in 4.2, excuse me, taking in $4.2 trillion, yeah, we will need more money, more revenue coming in,
Yeah.
and that's where we would like the corporations to step up. They should want to. The corporations should want to thank the nation that gave them the opportunity to be so successful. Here's our thank you. We're going to take care of people that we can, and they absolutely will not. Like I said earlier, they are crystal clear. They are not budging one bit. They are not. Our government. You can look at the federal minimum wage. I mean, a lot of people aren't making 7.25, but you just the fact that that exists. You have corporations and government that genuinely believe in their head that $7.25 an hour is sustainable and a livable, realistic wage, because they have not changed that at all
Yeah.
since 2009. And you look at it and like, how it's hard to wrap one's mind around that way of thinking. Where in our nation could you live if you were making? Where in our nation can you live if you're making $20 an hour and sustain yourself? Be able to have a car payment, have insurance. We're driving a 20-year-old car, and I look at my salary and I think I would need Stacy's salary as well, because my car payment is going to be $500. My insurance is going to be another $500. That's $1,000 out the door already before I pay rent, before I buy food, before I do anything.
Yeah.
Pay my phone bill, pay my. I'm fortunate to be in a a good position where I'm not have to, I'm not homeless. I don't, I don't, but I own everything. I own my old RV. I own my old car.
Tengo tres preguntas de la audiencia. One is like, what do you think about all the candidates that just come and speak out or in favor of migrants now that they are running? The second question is, are you planning on taking money from the APAC? And third, what are your stance with Israel? With Israel.
Very
Eh,
good. All
las,
right.
las tres preguntas que tienen es que ¿cuál es cuál es su opinión sobre Israel? Si va a tomar dinero de IPAC y por qué salen cuando están pidiendo el voto, por qué salen y apoyan a la comunidad migrante.
The first question, I guess he was. They were asking. It seems like they're pro-immigration now, but they weren't before. Is that kind of?
Yeah,
We, I,
that's
we've
kind of
always
what
been. We've. I personally have always been pro-people, no matter where you're from. Our stance on immigration is, I don't care how you got here. If you are coming here to better yourselves, and we should be, again, what we talked about earlier, our nation should be a leader, a global leader in here. Come here and we're going to help you have a quality life that's dignified, and you'll be able to you'll be able to provide for your family or provide for yourself. And if you want a second chance, we're the nation for you. Come here. We have a big ass statue somewhere up north, I think, that literally says we welcome all.
Mm,
Um,
let,
so
let me say that in Spanish, please, so I think it's important. Dice que Estados Unidos debería de ser como el líder global. Parece que tiene una estatua que dice todos son bienvenidos aquí y dice que él está a favor de todas las personas en general. No le importa cómo llegaron aquí. em, Todo el mundo, como todo el mundo
Sí.
merece una segunda oportunidad, donde quiera, no importa cómo vino. Ok.
okay. So and I don't like borders. I again, this is when we look at political parties, like we were kind of the conversation we had earlier. Political parties are kind of useless in 2026. Borders, they're kind of useless in 2026. I know nations need to have some kind of structure, but these are our geographic neighbors, both Canada and Mexico. There should be a complete friendly, neutral transfer of people coming and going. I think we have that borders because the government wants to maintain that control. They want to know how many people are on their land. They want to know, how many people are going. We don't need. We should have been involved way past this, since the civilization of modern history, I guess, for humans. And we're stuck in this caveman mentality of thinking that this has to happen. I have to do this. I have to do that. We have to have a fence around our house. We have to have walls around our country. We have to. This is tribalism. So immigration, if you come here, even if you make poor choices when you're here, and the government or police have you in custody, I am absolutely against deportation. We're not going to pay a foreign nation, ship you somewhere, tear you apart from your family, and have that nation charge us back to house you when we have you in custody already. We have you in custody, you're no longer a threat. You will stay here with your family.
Mhm.
So I don't
Lem-
like the whole deportation at all, or the immigration policy we have. And anyone who's here should be granted amnesty now. There should be no. People talk about pathway. This. You're here, you stay, you got citizenship. You mess up, we're going to keep you here. We're not going to send you anywhere else either. And we have because we have the resources to take care of these problems. It's not like we're it's not going to cost us anymore.
Mhm.
And on foreign policy, I like to. I like our foreign policy is no, we're not taking any APAC money. We're not taking any money. Again, we are not waiting till if we win the seat We're not waiting until after the election. We're not waiting until someday we're doing it now. There's a couple of people, a couple of candidates, about, I think maybe six of us. Open source is what it's called. It's not a party. It's a open source candidate. It's a description. We will not take any money from any donors. Even when we win, we're still not going to take money. This is a problem that ties back into running with one of the major parties, where there is mandatory call time. You must call donors. That's in their rules. If you want to retain that D next to your name or that R next to your name, you will be told to call. You're not allowed to talk about it once you're in office, but you can talk about it now. And this goes back to the HR 415. This does exist because there's a bill that wants to make it illegal. There's mandatory call time and there's mandatory membership dues. You must pay dues to the DNC or the RNC to maintain your letter next to your name, if that's what you want to choose. That's done. That's going to be at least 40 hours every week. So let's say, the candidates that are running with a D next to are both major party candidates running say, I don't take PAC money. Well, when you get into office, you're going to have to, or you're going to have to drop out of the party. You can't be halfway in the middle. You are either for call time and running as a Democrat or Republican, or you're not. There's no halfway. Well, I'll just work 20 hours, because the parties count on that. And if you don't do it, then you're out of the party. Again, we don't need parties. Parties just divide. So we're not taking any PAC money. No, we're not taking any. On Israel, there needs to be a three-state solution. Excuse me. This peace treaty has failed already because there's been attacks. We have Hamas, who ran in a legitimate UN-monitored election and won 42 out of 176 seats for the West Bank. And then we have Gaza, who is kind of like that's under control by the Palestinian Authority. Two factions, right? Okay. When Hamas won those 42 seats, the West, United States, and Israel went absolutely apeshit because we can't have declared terrorist organizations in positions of power. But that election was legitimate, according to the United Nations, that monitored it back in I think it was 76, or it might have been earlier in the 80s. Anyways, so Israel can stay where they are. Palestine can stay where it is, but we see a three-state solution because Palestine has divided itself between Hamas and the Palestinian Authority. So there needs to be a three-state solution there. And all three of them, need to figure that out themselves. As far as the United States being involved, that's not the interest that the United States has is a financial one. They want that coastline, and I think Israel wants also that coastline of Palestine, and they see it as extraction of resources there. We don't agree with that at all. We would pull back. I am against any more aid to Israel because they're destroying. It's not only, you can look at it. We can see, again, this is why they probably hate this media and platform, because we can see with our eyeballs the destruction there. That area is completely leveled. There's no malls. There's no grocery stores. It's rubble. And you can look at the other side and see that that's the complete opposite. So who's the problem over there? It's not Palestine. It's Israel. And that destruction was paid for in the U.S. giving arms to Israel. And that is horrible because lives were taken. Human, adult lives, mothers, fathers, grandmothers, children, pets, everything. That should not be. Our military in 2026 should be make a hard transition to aid instead of war in 2026. That is where we transition our military for.
How important are you noticing it for your potential constituents is the topic of Palestine and the defense of those people or the non-defense of those people.
When we talk to people here over the past year, face to face, their foreign policy is not really an issue for them. It's in the back of their mind, but their main concerns are immigration, housing, and healthcare.
Yeah.
Um, but we also realize that for on a bigger scale, people that we haven't talked to because we don't go into restaurants or supermarkets, but the cashiers at Publix or the dishwashers at Chili's, what they care about is what they see in their paycheck, and are they going to be able to afford rent? Those people living paycheck to paycheck. What matters to them is their revenue coming in, not Palestine or immigration. They want to
Yeah.
be able to afford a home. They want to be able to have transportation. They want to be able to have health care. The other issues are kind of distractions for that segment of the population, for
Ujú.
population like myself that are living
Mhm.
paycheck to paycheck. Yes, those issues are important and they need to be addressed as well, though.
Posiciones que no se necesita construir muros en las fronteras, que México, Estados Unidos y Canadá deberían de tener realmente más apertura, ¿verdad? Para que la gente pueda entrar. Y, y también dijo que en cuanto a Israel, pues no, primero no va a agarrar dinero de AIPAC. Israel pues tiene que, en cuanto a Israel, Estados Unidos y en contra a Palestina, pues está en contra de eso. Nos explicó un poco de cómo es que jamás fue realmente un electo y está reconocido dentro de la ONU, que fue una votación electa en democracia, como lo conoce el oeste.
I wonder if I detect this and you can say yes and you can say more or you can say no, Carl, you're kind of didn't mean to say that. So here's me interpreting you. Um, and for me, it's a very interesting question. I think on some level, there is this palpable sentiment among some people in our country that immigrants are bad, and that's an important question. And so I think it's for me, it seems like well, we ought to be like knowing, understanding where's that coming from? What's motivating that fear so that we can figure out how to address it the most effectively. But on the other hand, you also seem to point out an interesting observation that I think honestly makes a lot of sense. You know, when I wake up in the morning and I'm like, "Ugh, time to meet the day," I'm not thinking, "Oh, yeah, trying to figure out what do we have to do with those immigrants because they're destroying my life." It's not a that's kind of like a non sequitur. I think, as you point out, for most people, we are interested in our paycheck. Paycheck, rent, gas bill, hell. And so I wonder, are you saying, or are you saying something else, that effectively this question about migration is in some way a potentially a mirage, and we will most effectively push that mirage off to the side into the land of forgetfulness. And if we, to the extent that we are able to put these real issues on the debate table and come up with convincing solutions to them. What I wonder what do you think about that?
Yes, no, yes, yes. Yeah, we have a foreign policy, but we would like to focus on domestic policy. uh, if we fix a lot of things domestically, I think a lot of that has a domino effect of taking care of other things as well. Um, this why what that you said, why do people think that and why they address that? I think uh, television, the previous mass media communication that had such a head start over social media, from the teens up until or the 20s till now with television, and that kind of they had that gap of time to for people to get their knowledge from, or print if they knew how to read, um, from that point on till now. So they've had that head start, and they could say whatever they want. Or you can go back to look at legislation where there were laws on the books or in legislation that the news media could say something, even if it was true or not. Uh, um, so people have had that learned psychology or learned behavior for decades, probably close to 100 years, for to learn either one side or the other. And once the two main parties got hold of that airwave, and more recently now into the 60s or 70s, 80s, 90s, and up until now, because you have stations that are either owned by a Democrat or a Republican. There is no more like other than here, where you get non-biased journalism. Otherwise, if you turn on the television, you're going to have one side or the other, CNN or Fox, MSNBC or CBS. There is no middle. Unless maybe C-SPAN, maybe, but there. So people have learned all that information as truth because most people don't know there are other viewpoints, or if they go outside and they see it happening at their level, at their local level. And how do we change that? I think social media is taking a big cut, but it could take decades, like television, to become a alternative. We see it. It might not be. I mean, I think the last numbers that we looked at, I think we were like half the nation gets news off of social media, and I think the government does not like that because we can once again see with our own eyeballs, real time, what's happening, what is actually happening, versus what Fox or CNN is going to tell us what's happening, and that's kind of where the unlearning comes in. If that answers
So,
your question.
so, well, it's certainly very good. It sounds like what you're suggesting is that we need to have better messaging to kind of like undo the learning of our society. Now, when you say that, I think, well, not all Americans are anti-immigrant. As a matter of fact, right now we're seeing thousands, hundreds of thousands around the country of white Americans, standing up and saying, "Hey, what are you doing?" How do you understand the difference between, say, our two populations, folks who feel anti-immigration sentiments and people who feel open immigration sentiments? And do you feel like it's a there's a particular messaging? And I suppose just to like spice up your your thinking a little bit. And I I, like many families, am related to people who think very differently than I do. And so I have members of my family who I'm ashamed to admit it, but just for the sake of conversation, are
Sorry, sorry.
anti-immigrant. And I think, and, and I had a conversation with one of these with people about 10 years ago, in which he said, something that really had my head scratching here. He said this, a lot of people are anti-immigrant because they falsely believe, in kind of a weird way of presenting it. They falsely believe that immigrants represent an unfair competition in the labor market. And so that they're depressing wages and depressing labor conditions. And he said they falsely believe that. So I'm curious, like, why do you say that's false? But anyway, uh, but he said, I am anti, immigrant because I just want the law to be respected. And the law is an anti-immigrant law, and so I want it to be respected because I'm a law and order guy. And in fact, he was a policeman. So I think what sense do you make of that? Do you agree that a lot of this sentiment is motivated by a sensation that immigrants represent competition for me, and if we have lots of immigrants, my likelihood of becoming homeless increases, and therefore the proper strategy is to get rid of immigrants? What do you make of all of that?
I think a lot of it is just misinformation, and people are just uninformed. That's the nicest way I can put that, because
Yeah.
I remember a Big Bang. I don't know if you're familiar with Big Bang Theory with Sheldon and his mother. They're having a conversation, and Sheldon says, "Why can't I just tell everyone they're stupid?" And Sheldon's mom says, "Because people don't like when you tell them that." So they're educate. This is where education comes into it. People need to be informed. People are not taking. They didn't take my job at the post office. Immigrants. They didn't take my job here working at an RV resort. They didn't take my job at CVS. I've never experienced where immigrants, and if they wanted to work with me in conjunction with my job or at the job, that should be welcomed. America is not a white nationalist nation that has walls up. Immigrants, our founding fathers were. I can't get I can't. It's hard for me to think of or get that sense of where they're coming from, because we are all immigrants unless you're 100% Native American. So when people say, even here, one of the conversations we had with one of the residents here, a friend of ours, he said his immigrant family from Lithuania came in the right way. Okay, that was 100 years ago, almost. So when you say come in the right way, you mean like on a boat through the Ellis Island where you're given a stamp of medical and then you're good to go? Is that what you mean by right way? Because we're down with that. you know, the right way. A lot of our and it's a lot of fourth, fifth, and sixth generation immigrants that are saying go back home. Where if today's immigration policy were applied to their immigrants 100 years ago, they would have been turned away. They wouldn't be here having the conversation. Uh, Again, we should be the global leader on welcoming people from everywhere on the globe as a beacon on the globe. If I could just turn back and go back to what we were saying about Israel and the other question about uh, what Palestine, I just wanted to say that when we saw the flotilla be intercepted by Israel, at that point we had three frigate Navy warships sitting off the coast of Venezuela, costing us $40 million a day. Those warships should have absolutely escorted the aid flotilla that was headed to Gaza. That's where those ships should have gone to, and they were not. We just watched Israel confiscate those goods, and who knows what happened to the aid that was going to Gaza. Okay, I just wanted to get that out.
Yeah. A very sensible suggestion.
A couple days ago, the Sarasota School Board approved ICE to go inside the school, which we are concerned because ICE has already done that in other places. And the kids have been terrorized. How do you feel, not only as a citizen, but also how can we change that?
How do we change that? The school board needs to be fired. That decision should be a huge red flag to people, that these people are not here for your benefit. They're not here to protect your children. They are working with a aggressive, hostile faction of our government, ICE, and ICE needs to be abolished. Again, this is we should not be discouraging people from coming here, and I would even dare say discouraging them from people. We should not be discouraging people from coming here by any means. However, they want to come here. Like I said earlier, I don't care how you got here. We should be an example. We are seeing other countries that are cautioning people from coming here. That is how bad the United States appears to other foreign free nations now, today, in 2026. When the school board says they'll work with ICE and your elected leaders are silent on that issue, another huge red flag. Because they're okay with this. We have 218 people that claim that be anti-ICE And there we see maybe Representative Al Green, Representative Cortez, um, two, I don't know, Representative Crockett, maybe three people out of 218 that claim to be working for us, the people. Where are the rest of them? What good? Again, what good is a party? And then people will come on here and say they want to discuss letters. Well, let's hope the Democrats and the blue wave. We're talking about something higher and beyond, much more further beyond that now. We're talking about ICE going, like you said, going into schools. Who cares what letter is next to my name? I don't want that. So we want to talk about ICE and immigration, or do you want to discuss the letter that's next to my name, or not, or me not having a letter next to my name? Where is it? Where's your priority? Where are you coming from? Because I think we're on the same page. If we, I'm not you. I'm talking about conversation.
Ajá.
You know, we're on the same page. We want the same things. So let's work together instead of dividing us and get us into office and give this seat back to the people so we can make some changes. Something like I am for the complete abolish of ICE. We were fine without it. It's new, something since the 90s, I'm going to say, or 80s.
Mhm.
And
No,
that is
2000, when after
2000.
the 9/11
Okay.
attacks.
So that is an $800 billion budget that is literally taking food off the tables of people here within our borders right now. What is the benefit to the paycheck? Again, circling back to the port issue here also in Minity. What is the benefit to working class people and those below that on the financial ladder to have ICE? There is no benefit whatsoever. That benefits elitists. That benefits hate. And that is not where we want to see this nation now, and it has never been. We don't want to see the nation headed in that direction. Schools and children, that even if there's undocumented children in a school, that is not a harm to. They're not taking your job, as Carl said. They're a child. They're here to learn. They're here to try to improve themselves because they're in a school. Or even the undocumented immigrants that are working. They're here to improve themselves because they have a job. They're working. They're trying to do something better. They're not on the street. They're not committing crimes. If they commit crimes, again, like I said before, you still stay here. There's no deportation. But we want to get rid of ICE as well. And that's where we stand on that.
Debería de haber alguna letra de lo que nos importara en cuanto a eso de las escuelas, del que Sarasota, el, la mesa directiva de Sarasota votara para que ingresara ICE a las escuelas. No debería de importar de qué partido son, pero sí es más grande la situación que está pasando aquí y todos esos que votaron a favor de que esto pase deberían de ser removidos, deberían de ser votados.
Here's a thought that I'm curious what you think about this. Like I think that you you are articulating the idea that we need to come together to solve our problems. And yet we do see like there's like an extreme polarization of people who in many ways probably feel to us like just totally wrong-headed. What is do you see a conciliation between the two parts? Do you see you like the class of the workers just rising up and squashing the opposite side, which I wonder there are working class people who vociferate these kind of anti-immigrant ideas. How do you have a vision of how we
I
could
have
potentially come together?
I have a vision. It is
Okay.
decades away. I kind of feel like at this point personally that if we continue on the trajectory that we're going, if we see congressional members continue to be silent and they go in there and we vote out Republicans and people still are locked into that mindset of D or R, and we have a majority of Democratic um, incumbents that win. that we see maybe an impeachment um, of Trump, and I see the focus on that for the remainder of the term. I see us that giving us a President Vance, and then a probably a flip going out. Beyond that, making lives better for paycheck to paycheck people, addressing homelessness, universal health care, universal education. I don't see any change whatsoever because the parties will maintain that control. That there was no change there. The flipping back and forth from R to D to R within our lifetimes has been an epic failure. The only times that parties shifted was from outside interests, like the civil rights movements. That wasn't the DNC saying, hey, you know what, we should have a better. That was an outside interest that shifted that party. The parties don't really care what policy, as long as they maintain control. When you remove them and extract parties and money out of things, we can have that almost. I think we see a better chance of collaboration, like you said, between both sides, because I think at the heart, I would hope that we are all pro life and pro people. Uh, the fact that, especially if we have resources to offer that to everyone, I guess. I think so. Do I see? I don't see. I don't see. I don't see that much. I don't. I hold little hope at this point. Um, that's just me being, I guess, a realist and kind of pessimistic.
Ok. ¿Qué visión tiene él o sea, parecería que él desea que el país se unifique con el proyecto de resolver los problemas reales. Entonces le planteé una observación que creo que muchos tenemos, y yo la tengo, que somos muy polarizados o sea, radicalmente polarizados a tal grado que uno en la postura de uno ve al otro y piensa que no tiene cerebro, no piensa. Entonces, ¿cómo ve la posibilidad de la unificación de esos dos polos? Y le pregunté si cree que vamos a hacer como que conciliaciones con la otra parte, o si simplemente en este caso la clase obrera va a cobrar tanta fuerza que pueda aplastar los intereses del otro bando. Y él, siento que tú puedes
Sí,
corregirme un poquito.
él dijo que, pues bueno, esto viene pasando así, donde cambian de D a R constantemente y no está funcionando. Y pues, honestamente yo estoy de acuerdo con él, esto no está funcionando, ¿no?
Ujú.
Y ya se deben de dejar precisamente esos intereses especiales, para que haya un cambio, pero no, él no está esperanzado en que
Sí.
haya un cambio sustancial.
Entonces yo le voy a preguntar como que algo que llevo muchos meses planteando con nuestra mesa de discusión, la idea, la posible idea. Yo siento, a lo mejor hay algo de verdad cuando escuchamos a las personas antimigrantes que dicen, es que los migrantes nos están quitando el trabajo y nos están quitando los recursos para nosotros. Tenemos que eliminar a los migrantes para que haya más para nosotros. Y digo, si pensamos que hay algo de certeza, de cierto en eso, quizás le voy a preguntar qué es lo que él opina, y ustedes que están escuchando también pueden pensar qué opinan de eso. Yo siento, hasta cierto punto es interesante notar que muchos migrantes trabajan para empresas y dan lucratividad a esas empresas, pero esas empresas se quedan con su riqueza. O sea, mucho del trabajo del migrante es para la gente empresarial en el país, y eso podría causar rencores para los otros americanos. Entonces, me pregunto si un político como él, con cierta creatividad y deseo de cambiar los aires en el país, podría poner su atención en ver nuevas dinámicas en donde a conciencia estamos canalizando los esfuerzos de los migrantes para que su trabajo en verdad beneficie a todas las personas, incluyendo los pobres. Le voy a hacer esa pregunta, María Elena. A ver, right. So thank you for your patience. Um, so here's an, a bit of my own perspective and a bit of like my own like diagnosis and maybe even a treatment to the problem. And I'm very interested in your take on this because I really liked the spirit, a lot of the spirit that you've got in your on your website and also the the way that you're talking right now. So I'm curious what you think about this. So, I already talked about this family member who said that the reason why a lot of people are anti-immigrant is because they're worried about. I would say this, like not going verbatim what he told me. I would say I think that there might be a lot of truth to the idea that people who are anti-immigrant are concerned about the the hyper competitiveness that makes up our American society. Um, we like Adam Smith in The Wealth of Nations, like the philosophical grandfather of all of our capitalist economy, said the way to do it is everybody is just thinking about number one. That's it. And if everybody does that, not wasting your time thinking about how everybody else is doing, if you do that, the invisible hand is going to organize it so that everything is great. So be be kind of like insular. That's the ticket. Okay. And so, well, what we have here is that, I mean, I'm probably exaggerating a little bit, but we have a whole bunch of immigrant people who are coming in who are by design, because of the way our sort of society is organized, insular and thinking about themselves. And it's not because they're bad people. It's just because that's the way our society in the United States is. Like you say, okay, welcome here. Now here's a little pocket. You're responsible, and everything that you get, you can enjoy, and don't worry about the rest of us. Okay. And we're not going to worry about you either. Huh? And so I, and with the grace of, God, and let's hope that everything goes well for us. So there is a lot of there. I think there might be a lot of truth to the competitive nature, and then to the competitive nature that extra immigrants into our society potentially represent to us. So I ask you, potential political candidate, what do you and really I say that with all admiration and what do you think about in the spirit of really making an impact in our world, if we think about the immigration in these terms, say, what would we do so that competitiveness could be transformed into true collaboration and human cooperation, and so I don't know if that kind of a question makes sense to you. The some just to stir the pot more, I would say, what if we like had public lands whose profit was for the people. This was going to fund our food kitchens. This was going to fund our schools. This is going to, put food on people's tables. I mean, and say, look, thank you, immigrant people, for coming. Help us work this land. We're going to pay you a decent wage that we can pay in this kind of $15 an hour or whatever it is that we're going to pay. We're going to pay you guys, and we're going to hug you and say thank you for working your butts off. And and right now, I think potentially people who are like, darn immigrants, that might say, oh, for me? Thank you. Oh, thank you. I I wonder if changing our mindset in that direction would thaw the ice, cool the fires. All right, what are your thoughts on that?
My thoughts. It's funny when you said your family member was a police officer. My coworker is also law enforcement background as well, and he, when I have the immigration, uh, when I had the immigration conversation with him, he is repeating what I hear on television. That they're getting a lot of his responses. They're getting free. He doesn't want them getting free things. And
Uh-huh.
I said to that, and I have, and we don't get into heated. He said that he values my opinion because I'm educated on a lot of things that he just doesn't know
Hmm.
when it comes to policy. And I said, well, they're not getting free things federally. Uh, they can't. If you have no, you come here and you're undocumented and you have no ID, you're not going to go apply for Social Security. You're not going to go apply for food stamps or SNAP. Those are state issue. If the state wants to give you an identification card and wants to give you assistance, that's a state issue, not a federal issue. Not It's not the federal government, and that's where I was trying to differentiate with his way of thinking. The government's giving them free stuff because that's not happening. Um, so, and I personally don't have an issue with the states doing that. Like I said earlier, we should be taking care of everyone. So I think there's a learning curve there also that has to happen as well. Um, and we do that just by having conversations like this. That's not happening. That might be what they're saying on television, but that's not happening in real life, in reality. But what was the question? What was the question again?
Um, yeah, well, it was kind of like like a general overarching opinion about the direction of that we might take to bring our country together
Together.
to
Yes.
calm the anti-immigrant sentiment by and my brainchild here that I wanted to share is like the idea of making land reform in our country so that we offer ways that immigrants are welcomed here and the work that they're doing really does directly positively impact what we are all living, kind of
I
like
would love that.
avoiding the famous dynamic of the trickle down theory, where the immigrants work hard for a company, the company becomes very wealthy, and then it sort of like somehow comes back to the rest of us.
I think from the what you're referencing there is Reagan's trickle down economics. I've never witnessed that in my entire life of 58 years. Everything trickles up and we stay
Yeah.
the same. Yeah, but no, I would love that giving land to. I love that idea. I love that concept. And we have land. I don't know if we can grow anything out because most of it at this point in 2026 is in the desert, probably in Texas, or we could grow. We could grow stuff indoors. I wonder if that would work now with that plan because
Hmm.
it would not be voluntary. We would have to extract that land from that was not being used that could be used for farm or for growth to give to pantries and stuff. But I don't have an issue with taking excess and allowing a company profit and sharing that profit with people that do not have it, that need a hand up or need some kind of assistance. And if that a lot of people throw a label on that and say that is the word I they would like to say is socialist. It's
Uh-huh.
pro people, it's pro human, and that's what we are: pro humanity, pro dignity, and you can call that whatever you want, but that's where we are.
You've seen a lot of energy in that sense, whether or not it goes with the name or not in in Florida.
Um, no, not really. No, no.
Okay,
I see
okay.
it mostly on platforms or on, but in having a, I think people probably from a psychology point of view, the people when they're talking to you face to face, they're more reserved. They're more. They don't want to get. I guess they don't want to get punched in the face. I guess maybe I don't know what it is, but they're not as. as angry unless they're heated already. For when we go to live events, it's kind of a calm atmosphere, even if they disagree with you.
Oh, well, what I get, I don't know. What I meant to say was, um, I mean, with the label socialist or without, I mean, you are talking about things of substance that do, uh, like kind of like explicitly talk about helping working class people. And I just wonder, are you noticing that there's a lot of energy amongst Floridians to support a candidacy based on these ideas that you're talking about?
I think in here locally,
Hmm.
you know, a lot of the candidates are. I think the more the focus is not on policy locally here.
Mm.
Out of the,
Ah.
I gotta say, out of the five people that are running for this seat, it's not so much policy based. It's more with the letters. Make sure that a
Mm.
Democrat wins. To hell with
Hmm.
policy. We have one candidate that's another no party affiliated, and all his messaging is on here is that Trump is bad. We know Trump is bad. We know that. Everybody knows that. That's not. Let's hear what some policy positions are, because a 5-year-old can say that
Yeah.
and get it out. Our other three candidates are that are running for the Democratic primary. One of them is fairly new. I mean, young. He's the youngest one. But again, there's no policy that we've seen across social media. Um, the other two are more mature and have positions out there. One has won. Well, I mean, one has ran consecutively and lost over 7 terms, 14 years. I think the voters are made clear to me that they don't want her as the challenger.
Uh,
Um, and then the other one, and we've met Jan and we've met them. They're very nice people, and and us from even from our campaign, we see a role for all of us to play, and all of us to go to DC under one united administration, um, and that's our hope that this will happen. I mean, I don't necessarily. It doesn't have to necessarily be Anthony going to DC, but to give this seat back to the people, we should be looking at the general election now and not waiting until August when the Florida primary is to let the voters know 60 days prior to the election that, hey, we're running. We
No,
need
no,
to,
you're
we
doing
need to
good.
let the voters know now who that is.
Mm.
You.
well, thank you, and it's very exciting to to become aware that you got a political project in Florida like that, and that you're willing to talk to people like us. So I totally appreciate that.
Well, like you. When I worked at the post office, one of my buddies was from Puerto Rico. He would always say, "You people," joking around. He was a good, nice,
Mhm.
awesome guy. He's like, "Whoa, whoa, what do you mean, you people? People like you?" No, we're always welcome. This is the new television. This is the new social media. Like I said,
Yeah.
half. But yes, we're always happy to come back and discuss this. I could talk for 8 hours on. And there's so much to talk about and get into the details, and especially maybe if you're open to having Winston Jordan, our other candidate, and my name's Anthony DeRibas. I'm running for a congressional district seat here in Florida's 16th congressional district, which is Hillsborough and Manatee counties. Um, we welcome people of all political backgrounds. If we have any questions, you can look us up. I've tried to keep our name the same over all of our platforms. We're on TikTok, Blue Sky, Lemonade, YouTube, Skylight, Facebook. We have a campaign page and a personal page. So they're all Anthony DeRibas for FL-16 or DeRibas Anthony. Remember how to a good way to remember how to spell how to say our last name or how to type it in. It's
Mhm.
DeRibas.
Mhm.
It rhymes with that song. DeRibas. The name is DeRibas. You should learn how to say it. DeRibas. There's another famous politician that song kind of goes. You know who I'm talking about? I'm Donnie.
Eh, Qué padre, ¿verdad? Carol, ¿cómo te sentiste?
Bueno, me parece que tiene pues, o sea, tiene mucha energía para estar participando en debate y conversación con la gente y con ideas fuera de outside the box.
Sí, ¿verdad? No, fíjate que a mí me gustó, creo que me da un poco de energía positiva en el sentido de que no está enfocado ahí, como dices tú, en esa cajita, politiquera, donde ya sabes que te van a responder.
Ajá,
No
exactamente.
sé si tú te has dado cuenta cuando ves políticos y que están diciendo, oh, le preguntas una cosa y te contesta siempre lo que ya ellos tienen como estipulado que van a responder, ¿no? A mí me
Exacto.
pareció fresco, me pareció que es bueno. Dice que si, Fabi, que si te diste cuenta cómo tosía cuando estaba contestando a Israel. Sí, Fabi, pero eso es como normal, porque a veces uno no lo puede evitar. Pero fue muy claro con Israel, ¿no, Carol? ¿No te pareció?
Sí,
Sí,
o sea, me parece que vemos en él un candidato que no quiere apoyar bélicamente a Israel y al contrario está muy interesado en proteger el apoyo humanitario a la gente de Gaza.
pero que se enfoca aquí como a nivel local.
Ajá. Sí, sí, su
Sí,
prioridad es.
su prioridad de él es política local. Yo
En lo personal, a mí me gusta el espíritu de él y si él llegar a ser un político en Washington y si conserva ese ánimo de estar con la gente hablando y reflexionando y analizando y procesando, pues podríamos tener como que algunos nuevos impulsos, nuevos aires de propuestas e ideas que